Welcome to the MU Podcast Club, where ideas spark, stories unfold, and conversations take center stage. Whether you're here to learn, laugh, or just listen, we have got something for you. So sit back, hit play, and let's dive in.
Welcome to Uncharted Voices. Today, we are joined by Mr. Ravi Kiran Tangirala, a visionary leader who spearheaded the establishment of Global Capability Center and his notable feats. Join us today to know his journey and some experiences.
Thank you, Alaika. That's a wonderful introduction. Really happy and thrilled to be here among all of you, the young, budding, the leaders of the future. Pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you, sir.
Thank you.
So you've been very much instrumental in establishing GCC in India, right? So what were some key challenges you faced and the opportunities you encountered through this journey in setting GCC in India?
Yes. So first of all, I'm sure there are people who doesn't know what a GCC means, right? We'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about what is involved in establishing a GCC, and we'll talk about what are the challenges and opportunities. So first of all, GCC stands for Global Capability Center. When an organization wants to expand globally and to attract the global talent, to essentially look at keeping their intellectual property and also the institutional knowledge in-house, they generally consider establishing their own capability center. So think it like a child being in a different geographical location. It can be near shore, it can be far away from where the parent is. So that's what is GCC.
Yes.
Earlier, it used to be called as GIC, Global In-House Center. Then it went into GCC. Now they're calling it as Innovation Hubs and Global Business Services, whatnot. So again, depends on the maturity of the organization, the name or the nomenclature actually changes. So with that, let's talk about what is involved in establishing a global capability center. First, when organization tries to consider, they have to go slow. First of all, there has to be a good strategy, plan, a cost benefit analysis, and essentially a true planning exercise that has to happen. So that will essentially lead into making a decision around where the organization has to be established. There will be a lot of due diligence that will be done, and there will be a location strategy, there will be a planning around where, how, the number of people, areas, talent availability, whatnot. There is a huge evaluation criteria that will be considered before even you select and decide to move on. Once all these parameters are covered, then you essentially go into the incorporation mode, where you incorporate the entity.
Company.
Yes, and complete all the legal formalities,
And everything.
yes, compliances and whatnot. So that where you create the identity for the new entity. Then you go into building your teams, whether it's leadership teams or execution teams. Then you start, you start small. You probably start in an incubation space, or you start in in a small location. Then you start building your permanent facility. You move the teams. Then you focus on the whole talent angle. How do you do talent acquisition? Then how do you establish, all the, benefits, whatnot. Then you establish the teams. Then you start transitioning the work from your parent location, and then establish the delivery from the GCC, and slowly get to a level where the organization is matured enough to play a very strategic role. So essentially it starts with the capacity and evolves into a capability. So that's how the whole journey works. So now let's talk about some of the challenges that I have observed in incorporating or establishing or running these organizations in the past. The first thing is, in my case, which is very unique, and I hope we never have to worry about it, is to establish the organization during a global pandemic. When the entire world pretty much got stuck,
Yes.
we established and we started growing. That was the biggest challenge. How do you navigate yourself in the most difficult times for the entire humanity. That was the biggest challenge that I had to face, and hopefully, touch wood, we never had to worry about it in the future, in our lifetimes. Second thing is, how do you establish a brand for the organization? Brand is not just a billboard, not just an ad. People should genuinely accept, adapt with an entity that is coming into a given land. If it's a well-known name, any of the names that you guys have heard, it's a lot easier.
Yes, sir.
Any of the like cool drinks, any of
It's
vehicle
easy
brands,
to recognize.
it's easy to recognize, right? But if there are a lot of entities which are gigantic in nature, but their name is not known in the public, that's when you have to work harder to bring the brand and visibility, because that's very important for people to start coming in and getting engaged. They say, right, unless you get in, you will not understand what it takes. So for you, it's like a chicken and egg. You have to be a well-known brand for you to get in, and for you to be a well-known brand, there has to be branding. So that's the second, I would say, biggest challenge. And again, I'm sure you know the social infrastructure here, right?
Yes, sir.
Everyone will ask like, hey, what is this? I never
Yes,
heard.
where you working?
Yes, it's
Is it a company?
Is it a company?
What's your salary?
Yes, that's the next question. Before you even get to salary, right? You want to know what is the entity name. The third and most important aspect is, how do you engage the teams, and how do you make sure they're aligned to the home office or the parent organization, and how do you bring the harmony between teams that are geographically separated, and how do you make them operate like one team? So these were the areas of focus, and these were I would say, the challenges or the opportunities where we all had to work together from all geographical locations to establish, nurture, and mature the organization. I hope I answered your question.
Very much, sir. So, I mean, so much to understand, but yeah, it covered all the points.
Thank you.
So, I mean, another question, like moving on. While we speaking GCC, it was being recognized one of the top workplaces in Indian sector, right? In the BFSI sector. So, like, what were the strategies and how did you come up with that?
So, as an organization leader, it's very important, as a leader or the front runner, to make sure the organization is running very efficiently from all perspectives. In my past experience, I can say the most important and the critical aspect to bring in the organization is the culture.
Positive work environment.
Yes, culture. It can be the way it starts from top down and goes bottoms up. How does a leader establish the organization, and what is the philosophy that is being established? Because people follow leaders. So what kind of environment a leader is setting up, and how flexible and how genuine and how transparent the leader is very, very important. The trust based leadership brings a lot of confidence in employees,
Yes, sir. Very true.
and that's what is very important. That is what has been established. The other thing is, how do you gain the respect by the virtue of execution capabilities, not by the virtue of title? That's another key important aspect. And how do you ensure that people understand their work program, and how can they correlate their piece of work, it can be anything, to the bigger strategy for the organization, and how do they operate very independently with a good guidance and direction to ensure that the entire team is working towards a common goal and the objectives that are set by the organization. And how do you make the workplace very fun? When you look at a typical employee, they spend at least 8 to 10 hours in the workplace.
Yes, more like 1/4 of the day.
Right. I would say sometimes 1/3,
Okay.
and when the need arises, it will be half. So technically, home is where you work, and the place we call home is the place where you go,
Yes.
spend some good time, quality time, family, relax, and come back. Right. So how do you make the employees get comfortable in the given environment, and where they feel they're being respected, where where their thoughts are being valued, their work is recognized, and they feel very comfortable to bring themselves to work. So once, not only just me or any other leader, once we establish these things, the organizations will excel in the way they execute and deliver. So these are all some of the things that as a leader I have focused on to help support everyone.
So your journey is completely full of achievements. So one among those, again, talking about you've been recognized about bringing up talents from the tribals and rurals, right? So I mean, what made you pick up those people into the workplace, and how did it impact the work environment? Or if I would say, like, if some organization is again planning to follow the same lines, what suggestions would you give them?
Wonderful question, and this is very dear to my heart. So first of all, having an opportunity and liberty as a leader to do certain things is a blessing. I definitely had that from my top leadership and the organization.
Yes.
The second and the most important aspect, it goes back to the grassroots of an individual. I studied in a regional medium school. Here it is called like Telugu medium. So that's actually, so where all the subjects are being taught in the mother tongue. So growing up, it is being seen as a medium of education where people go to school and study enough so that they can make they can go to their traditional work areas and be enough educated so that they can read a newspaper or a stamp paper or something. So it's like a checkbox. So when I studied in that kind of an environment, of course I'm very fortunate. My dad was a bank officer, so every 2 years we used to move from place to place.
So many transfers and
Yes.
many people to know.
Yes, and I still keep in touch with most of them.
Oh, that's really nice to know.
Yeah, so I realized that how many people with talent are not being recognized or given a right opportunity. That's really baffled me. And as a kid, there is only so much you can do, right? You can take your friend and explain something to make sure they understand what it is and all that. I always had that, I would say, dream or vision or whatever it is to see how you can get the diamonds in rough, give them a little bit of push so that they can excel in whatever they do. So big thanks to some of the influential leaders and visionary leaders that I worked with, where they brought this, I would say, concept of can we think differently?
Out of the box.
Yeah, rather than going to these big schools, Ivy League schools, is there anything that we can do differently? I should not say this, but I will. But unfortunately, when kids go to tier A schools, they feel very empowered and privileged.
Yes, very true.
Because if not this, there are like so many opportunities that are waiting. But the real talent or the people that are in need may not be in those.
They don't come into the limelight.
Correct. So that's when we decided to go into tribal and social welfare institutions, and especially focused on women talent. I always say, right, an educated woman can change the lives forever in the next generations. And an educated and a working woman can bring a huge impact, and the generations will change. So we focused on that heavily and looked at women talent. And let me tell you, when you give certain critical positions and work programs to them, they never disappointed us. And I really wish we can do a lot more. And this actually being covered extensively in media houses. That actually, I really wanted that because there is only so much appetite that a given institution will have. And that spread across the industry. And now several people and several kids are being hired from these institutions in the similar way as others. So they say you do certain things because you are asked to do, or you're supposed to do, or it's there in your job description. There are certain things that you do because that brings an impact to the society and which are dear to heart. This is one of those things that I would say very close to my heart, and I got great support from the organization, the leadership team too, to help support the organization. So that's what we did, and I would say that became a reference model for a lot of other institutions, and that's going really good. So as a human being human, I can say I felt really good for that one particular initiative. I hope I answered your question around this.
So, what would be your suggestions for people who are again following your paths?
Well, I wouldn't say people should follow my path, because everyone has their own path. But it's like, how do you get the best out of all the how do you extract the best practices? I would say look at the right talent. It can be anywhere. It can be hidden. A lot of people focus, especially when you hire the initial talent or the freshers that you call it as. There is huge emphasis and focus on the communication skills. How well can they speak? How well they can present themselves? But unfortunately, that's not the case with several kids that come from rural areas and suburban areas. They're not privileged to have an environment where they can essentially get exposed to these kind of things. So they don't have that kind of environment. So obviously you are who you are, and what you learned is what you learned. So I would say communication, while it's important, the language is important. Language is just a means of communication. As long as you're able to communicate, it doesn't matter how well this can speak in English or other languages, other means. It's a matter of expressing what you want to express. So people should not get judged based on their communication skills. People should be judged based on their passion and the craving and the fire in the belly to bring an impact. That's what I ask my fellow colleagues to look at, and that's what a lot of leaders do too. So I would say that's the only thing.
Sir, so while going through your profile, I've encountered something. You have worked with the Fortune 500 companies. You worked with the governments. This is another path. This is another path. They're two different genres altogether. So, what were the differentiations among them, like the modernization or the culture or the workplace, or you name it, anything? Like, what were the complete differences between those two?
Well, here is the thing. Initially, you'll not have any choice. Wherever there is an opportunity, you grab. So as you mature as an individual, as a professional, as a leader, you get to pick. So the journey that I had, so if I have to tell the audience, I started with the finance sector, then I went into gaming and entertainment, then went into federal and state initiatives, especially that's what we call it as government. Worked with 13 different agencies. Then went into airlines and aviation, then into banking, then into insurance.
Sir, is there any sector that you haven't worked with?
Well, there are so many. I don't want to say I worked on all. There is so much. What I have done is a tiny bit. So it actually, again, it's a matter of getting an opportunity and matter of, you know, pursuing what you want to be. I never wanted to be a specialist in a given domain. There are a lot of people that are there who want to be specialists and pretty much spend their lifetime career in that kind of an environment. But when you are a generalist, you get to experience and you get to, you get exposed to a lot of elements. See, it doesn't matter what kind of building you build, the foundational elements are pretty much the same. As long as your foundation is strong, you can build anything on top of it. So I ensured that I have gained enough knowledge at the foundational level.
Yes, so they say the foundation is the key for success.
Correct. Yes, I believed in that, and that's where I kind of, you know, became stronger and strong in the fundamental elements in every these domains. Then it's a matter of how do you apply science and art to execute and deliver. And I focused on not only different domains, I also focused on different areas of work program. So it makes you like a Swiss Army knife, and you become very versatile and very agile, and you will know how to get into a situation, solve, because you don't bring yourself as a domain expert or an expert with a specific skill or talent. So that really helped me, and that's what I enjoy doing, and that's what I will be doing to see where there's fun. And my biggest pet peeve is how can I create an impact, not just deliver something. So they call it as like delivery with an impact, not just an output. In all my years of journey, I would say if one thing that makes me feel very proud, I was able to deliver an impact and do something that's probably does not or did not, which has not existed in the organization.
Again,
And
out of the box.
Yes, and I love challenges because that's what makes you very sharp in terms of thinking. I get very bored if it's
So
very
you
monotonous.
the challenge is that like you don't work? Most of the times you love to work with challenges.
Well, when you get into a leadership role, every day is a challenge.
Very true.
If there is no work, that is also a challenge that you need to solve. That means something is not correct.
Yes.
Being in a leadership role is essentially like working in this emergency management services. You never know what you
Risk
get
management.
into. Well, risk management is different. Risk at least you can control, right? But when you get into a day-to-day or any of the situations, that's when your true leadership comes out. If it's BAU work, there's nothing you need to do big, but every day is a challenging day for a given leader.
You said, in the conversation again, you mentioned that you've been worked for almost 25 years in US, right? But why did you only pick India to establish your GCC? Because, why is it so specifically India to establish a technological or private sector here?
Oh, yeah.
If not there.
Because I'm from India. I'm just kidding. See, here is the thing. I'm very thankful to my whole, I would say, mentors and well-wishers that I have. I definitely got a great exposure to work in multiple countries, cultures, environments, people. And it's the opportunity that took me to the places. And I took the opportunity and made it a reality. So India happens to be one of the initiators for the organization. But I never wanted to say I want to do something, in India. But here is the thing. The fact is, India is a technology delivery, I would say, destination for most of the countries because of what exists today in India, especially both from technical standpoint, your shared services, your operations. And believe it or not, there is so much talent that that is available, which is, I would say, the key factor for the success. Talent. That's what. What is an organization? Organization is a bunch of
People
like-minded.
with a group of people with coordination and